Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and Administrator McLerran, thank you for being here today. And I would just say at the outset that I have not formed an opinion on the merits of this mine and whether it should go forward. But sitting here listening today, I am concerned about the process and how that was not followed in this case. And what I think concerns folks and people, particularly back home, and what leads to a lot of cynicism in government is when there seems to be a predetermined path or there seems to be kind of a rigged process. And the nice thing about having depositions is it helps us get to the truth, helps give us accurate facts. And in looking at the deposition of Mr. North, it's up on the screen here, you know, it's clear to me that only one option was presented here, and that was the use of 404C to stop the Pebble mine. In that deposition of Mr. North, question was asked, and did you ever try to convince anyone else at the EPA that the agency should use 404C authority with regards to the Pebble project? Answer, I felt that we should use 404C, and I made that case. Follow-up question, did you ever present the other part of the case, which is not to use 404C process? I don't think I presented that. That's his answer. Follow-up, that was not what I presented. So that's clearly laid out there in the series of question and answers under oath by Mr. North. In looking at that exchange, Administrator McLerran, it's clear there's only one option presented there. And I guess in terms of your position, is it appropriate EPA protocol for EPA employees to present only one option in the agency?
So Mr. North was part of a larger group of employees who looked at multiple options. Mr. North apparently had concluded that initiating 404C was the appropriate step, but I had other senior advisors, much more senior than Mr. North, advocating other options, that we not go forward with a 404C action, that we look at additional science. And it was really an extraordinary step to do a watershed assessment and do the science. A lot of science existed prior to doing the watershed assessment, so people were aware of some of that science and they had made conclusions on that. But to say that you know, that was the only recommendation, the only option that was in front of me is just incorrect.
Well, again, getting back to my original point of what frustrates us is the kind of predetermined, kind of rigged process. I wish I was more confident in what you just mentioned, but the evidence doesn't really bear that out. And I would just follow up, you know, in terms of the question and answer that I just went through in the deposition, you don't dispute any of that in terms of what Mr. North said, correct?
Well, again, I haven't had a chance to review his deposition, so I don't know the entire context of what he said. Okay.
Well, what I just said, do you have any reason to dispute that?
I have no reason to dispute that Mr. North had his opinions, but others had different opinions.
Well, it appears that in reading through this process, though, he influenced a lot of people, including his manager, Michael Serlog. And I guess in terms of that influence, I mean, he was obviously an important part of this process, was living in Alaska. I mean, it appears to me this demonstrates the biased manner, and I'm trying to figure out how far that went up into EPA. Can you comment on that?
So again, I think at the decision-making level, there was not bias, and I was a key decision-maker on this. I approached this with a very open mind, and again, the option that I chose to pursue was doing additional science, doing the watershed assessment.
Well, in light of the transcript that I just read to you and just showed to you, and hopefully you can follow up and look at that, which it sounds like you want to do, I mean, it's clear to me there's bias here, and I guess my question to you would be, in terms of moving forward, would you reconsider invoking the 404C process so that a public, transparent, and fair permitting process can be carried out from here forward?
So, as I've said before, we've had a very open, public, and transparent process using our Clean Water Act authorities. The 404C process has a tremendous amount of due process associated with it. The watershed assessment was a very open and transparent process that had amazing amounts of due process associated with it. So I think we are conducting processes that are open and fair and have due process associated with them.
In terms of my question, would you reconsider that?
No, not at this time.
Those are all my questions, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. LaHood. The gentleman from